Hello everyone and welcome to the video. You are live with Endeavor Gaming, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new CSV build on the brand new monitor class. So let's just go on ahead and get into it. The Monitor class is one of the brand new ships in the 13th anniversary bundle, and as I said, we are going to be going over a new CSV build on this ship, so let's get into it. This has been one of the many ships that has been developed with our new Joint Task Force program, getting together with people like Orasonic, Alpha, and Trank, and seeing just how far we can push these all new ships. So here it is, the Terran Monitor class with our new CSV build. Up front, we have our Terran Task Force dual heavy cannons, as well as a set of sensor-linked phaser dual heavy cannons. I like both of these. Keep in mind, it will rely on you keeping your enemies in front of you, but as long as you can do that, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. Rounding out our four weapons, we have the Enhanced Biomolecular Photon Torpedo. This is a nice one for its two-piece, boosting our phaser damage and that nice Cat 2 bonus, as well as just being a super powerful torpedo under high yield. For our deflector, this is the standard space set that we've been using on all the JTF builds. We have the Elite Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector Array, our competitive engines that will proc off of our firing modes, and the Disco 2-piece set rounding it out for our warp and shields. The shield in particular is rolled to cap to feed more into our debris screen. For our aft weapons, as I said earlier, we have the heavy biomolecular turret finishing off that two-piece set, as well as two sensor-linked turrets. Now, if you don't have these two sensor-linked turrets, there's definitely other things you can put in here. The trilithium turret is a really solid one. The gamma turret is another one you could throw in here if you don't have the sensor link, but since we got them, we're going to use them. For our devices, we have energy amplifiers, of course, for that bonus energy weapon damage. We have some deuterium surplus to help this ship. It is a bit slow, so we gotta make up for that with this. Our Kobayashi Maru transponder, if nothing else, just for that first one, the 10% bonus all damage. And then lastly, our temporal negotiator. This is a just in case we're towards the end of that run and we really want to get one more thing in. That's where temporal negotiator comes in. For our universal consoles, which also highlights the best part of the ship, Miracle Worker gives it another console slot. Ugh, I love it. We've got Lorca's custom fire controls as well as a vulnerability locator. For engineering consoles, we've got DPRM and Domino. These are things I would put on more or less any of my phaser builds, especially the CSV builds. For our science consoles, we have our new suite of consoles. We have the experimental power redirection. This is from the Excelsior 2. This is just a really fun console. Its passives are fine, but that auxiliary phaser beam ray overload at will is so much fun. Next, we have emulating phaser lands. This is mainly to work with things like universal designs. It's also a fine console to put on. We've got debris screen, which has been a staple of all of these builds. If you hit something with it, it's going down. We've got Hydra. This is a new console, and this is going to feed right into our two hangar bays. You click this off when you've got hangar bays out, and they will decimate any ships in front of them. As you'll see in the ISE later, this console was worth quite a lot of damage in the run. Next, we have binaural infusion circuits. This is mainly just for our boost to crit severity, since most of our other consoles were focusing on our critical chance. And then for our tactical consoles, we just have a bunch of vulnerability locators for our crit chance. And then our two hangar bays, we have Elite Valkyrie fighters. These are a lot of fun. I really like having the high yield 3 and the spread 3. They're cool, they look nice, and with superior area denial, they work oh so very well. With all these crit consoles, we managed to get our crit chance to 60.6 and our severity to 187.3. I want to get that severity a little bit higher, but luckily in combat, it's definitely able to get just around 200, which is fantastic. Moving on to our traits. Most of these shouldn't be too much of a surprise. We have unconventional systems. This is going to give us that recharge to our universal consoles when we're activating control abilities, which again works really well on the ship because it's a carrier, a science carrier, and we have lots of control abilities. We've got a good day to die. This is just another one. It helps tactical players. It's going to give us that go down fighting at any hull integrity. It's a free 50% bonus all damage. You can't go wrong. We have adaptive offense for our critical chance. Superior cannon training. This is going to help us with that cannon weapon damage. Terran targeting systems, really just for that crit severity buff. The Boimler effect, which is going to be used on more or less every build that we run. I mean, that cooldown, you can't go wrong with it. It's also stopped me from having to use a space for a Photonic Officer, so I like it. Next, we have Context is for Kings. This is the win-win space trait. If you didn't take damage, then you get bonus damage. And if you did take damage, you get damage resistance rating. You can't lose with this trait. Next, we have Anchored. This is one that I tend to go back and forth on a lot of ships, but here it makes sense since this is a slow ship. When I get into position, I stop and I stay there, as you'll see in the ISE, and building up stacks of this helps a ton. Next, we have Intelligence Agent Attaché. This is going to give us some Captain ability recharge when we crit, which we will quite a lot. That'll help our things like Attack Pattern Alpha, which is a great ability because, again, 49.8 bonus all damage. And then lastly, we have Fleet Coordinator. If you're running an ISEs, this is always a go-to. Bonus damage for how many people you have on your team, so 10%. Moving on to our starship traits, we have Superior Area Denial. This is what I mentioned a little bit earlier with our hangar pets. This is amazing. When you activate Cannon Scatter Volley, it'll debuff all of the targets it hits, plus it will give Scatter Volley to those Valkyrie fighters. Those Valkyrie fighters work very well with Scatter Volley. Next, we have Withering Barrage. This is for our Cannon Scatter Volley. This is going to extend the duration, give us just around 100% uptime. Next, we have Terran Goodbye. This is another one. I like that crit chance boost. Universal Design, which is going to give us crit chance and critical severity, working off of immolating phaser lines mostly. We have Ruin of Our Enemies. This one is one that I don't run on a lot of ships because it requires you to get the kill, but on this ship, it makes devastatingly great use of it. It'll give you bonus damage every time you kill an enemy, and it can stack up to 100 times. And then lastly, we have Emergency Weapon Cycle. This is for the Firing Cycle Haste. I love Firing Cycle Haste. I used to run the Trilithium set because of it, but I decided it wasn't really worth giving up a console slot and a weapon slot for it. So right now we're just using the 20% from Emergency Weapon Cycle. Moving on to our Bridge Officer stations, most of this should look pretty familiar for a lot of my temporal-based builds. We have our distributed targeting here, we have chronometric conversion field, and then we have recursive shearing. Recursive shearing is so much fun. When you use it right, it can do just a ton of damage. So ironically, you'll notice on the parse, it is not the highest because we have some very fun things in store on that build. Moving on to this tactical slot, these are basically all of our firing modes. These are the tactical abilities. We have our Torpedo High Yield 1 for the Enhanced Biomolecular, we have Attack Pattern Beta 1 for the debuff, and we have our Scatter Volley 2. Yes, I wish I could use Scatter Volley 3, but there's just no seat for it on here. Though, I think after you see the parse, you're not going to miss it too much on a ship like this. Plus, we have something that might help just a little bit down the line. For this engineer, we've got emergency powered weapons. This is a pretty easy one to choose. We like emergency powered weapons. It gives us bonus damage, helps with that power setting. You can't go wrong with it. Now, moving on to our science. This is where things start to get interesting. So first, we have Narrow Sensor Bands 1. I like this ability. The reason I wasn't using 3 is because it takes a lot more fancy flying to get the most out of it, and I don't know if I could do that. I would prefer to have this 10% bonus energy weapon damage and then have something a little bit different on the higher seats. Next, you have Delayed Overload Cascade 2. This is more useful in ISEs when things are lasting a long time. You get things all together in your grab wall and then you launch them away, and it can do quite a large amount of damage. Next, you have Grab Wall 1, again working right with our Delayed Overload Cascade, grouping things up. And then we have Mixed Armament Synergy 3. If you're running a Miracle Worker ship and you have more than 2 types of weapons, use this. It is amazing. Bonus damage. I love Mixed Armament Synergy. It's also worth noting that at least this, and in the case of our temporal ability over here, these are control things and they're going to help us with unconventional. And then lastly for these two, we have Jam Targeting Sensors and Scramble Sensors. These are really just for the unconventional procs. They're both control abilities and we like them. Should also be noted that I am using Watchers on all of the seats here. This is one of the new builds where I have actually set up Watchers for every single seat. You will start to see more and more ships get them, and all of the new ships going on from here on out will be using exclusively Watchers. SROs are probably the next best I would choose. After that, I'd probably put the Jem'Hadar Vanguards, and then after that, it's kind of a mixed bag. For science ships, having things like Astrophysicists, maybe Kentari. Just keep in mind that Kentari do not stack, but there are other videos from people like Spencer where you can check out a lot more of that in depth and see how it works. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have our duty officers here. These are fun. I definitely could get better ones, but they tend to run pretty expensive on the exchange. I'm gonna have to pick up some Borg Duty Officer boxes eventually to actually start doing some stuff with it, so we'll see. First off, we've got 24 of 47. This is going to be a power levels to max or critical chance for our miracle worker abilities. We've got 19 of 47, which is a power levels to max or a weapon armor penetration for our miracle worker abilities. And then we have 26 of 47 for our last Borg Duty Officer, which is going to be damage over time and crit chance. I really like this one. This is one of my better duty officers, and I got the temporal abilities to make use of it, so it's going to be fun. Now, I mentioned that whole thing about our Cannon Scatter Volley 2 and wishing it was a Scatter Volley 3. That's what Vincent Kish is here for. This came out of the Uneasy Allies. It might have been before that. I'll have to go back and check. But this duty officer is absolutely amazing. If you're running 2, it'll give you a 25% chance of upgrading it to a 3. And if you're running a 1, it has a 25% chance of upgrading it to a 2. Next, we've got our Con Officer. This is one I kind of felt like I needed to throw on. The more evasive maneuvers we have, the better. I really need it. This ship is a little bit slow. And then we've just got this one filling out that last spot. Aftershock gravity wells are fun. The more things we can get grouped up, the better. And it can come in handy when we're attacking the gateway at the end of an ISE. The more grav wells, the better. We have a chance of pulling in some things from farther away, and you can't lose with that last delayed overload cascade or the experimental power redirection. So now we've taken a look at everything on this ship. Let's take it into a wanted on Elite to really see what it can do in combat.
Looks like our flight got them to notice us. Let's go over and ask if their boss wants to come out party.
Well, as you saw, the monitor had absolutely no problems getting through that patrol. Let's take it into something just a little bit dicier and see how it performs in a prolonged engagement, shall we?
Good to see you, my friend. Under the.
If you feel that.
That's one less rip to worry about. Let's regroup with Martin.
Bad news, officer chief. Klingon are approaching our position.
An even harder patrol, yet the monitor had absolutely no problem blasting its way through it. I am loving this ship so much, but there's one more test we need to do. Let's take it into an ISE and see how well this new cannon scatter volley build performs. That was quite the run. That monitor class managed to pull 856.58k in that ISE, with a max one hit of 7.4 million, likely from debris screen, and a crit rate of 30.52. This ship absolutely demolished the competition. Borg won't know what hit them. Moving on to the breakdown of all of our weapons. First off, we have pets, which did a massive amount of damage here. So, it's primarily from the elite Valkyrie fighter squadrons, of course. We had squadrons doing 16.6k DPS, max one hits of just under 100k. I mean, Hydra is just doing completely bonkers things. I really like this console. Next, we have Debris Screen, unsurprisingly, with that 7.4 million max one hit. And then we move on to our cannons, which impressed the hell out of me. Namely because the crit rates for them 100%, 98.45, and 98.21. That is absolutely fantastic. Our emulating phaser lands managed to crit 100% of the time. We managed to get 100% crit from Hydra, as well as a 91.67% crit rate from our enhanced photon torpedo. This is just the ship is so good. The only reason our crit rate was reading at 30.7 something percent was because the pets don't really crit all that much. This ship is absolutely fantastic. The monitor class might be my favorite ship out of this bundle. I really like the Hydra, don't get me wrong, and the Sirius is fine, and the Eagle is fun to fly. But the monitor, I used to talk badly about carriers, oh so very much. But then we got the Seneca, which was a just fantastic torpedo platform that I managed to hit 800k in. And now we have the Monitor, another one of these ships that's just a really solid platform for building on. Are carriers the best type of ship? No, not by a long shot. But these two most recent carriers have proven that there's a little bit more to be done there, and the systems team did an absolutely great job at putting this thing together. The Valkyrie fighters complement it so well, and it looks amazing. Let me know what you think of the monitor class down in the comments, and also check out the other build we had on it, checking out the Joint Task Force in action, taking on a Preying Upon the Weak on Elite. It was a ton of fun. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. As always, you have been live with Endeavor Gaming, and remember to keep calm and game on.